Let me read to you a passage from the 14th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 25 to 33. It's the Gospel for the 23rd Sunday of Ordinary Time, Year C. St. Luke writes, "Great crowds were travelling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. 'If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you, wishing to construct a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, 'This one began to build, but did not have the resources to finish.' Or what king marching into battle would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple." That's from Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 33. What does it suggest to us? Well, it speaks of the cost of discipleship. You know, our gospel today tells us that great crowds accompanied Jesus on his way. Many in the crowds may have regarded themselves as disciples of Jesus. They were accompanying Jesus, but would they continue to accompany him when they heard of all his teaching and when they experienced the difficulties involved in following him? We only have to remember what happened when our Lord in the 6th chapter of St. John said that they must eat his flesh and drink his blood. Having heard this, very many left him. That is to say, it was one thing to go along as part of the crowd, perhaps hoping to benefit from his miracles. It was interesting, even exciting, and while it lasted, they probably felt that any inconvenience that was involved was worth it. But being a real disciple involved a cost. Were they prepared to pay the cost of being Christ's disciples? And this is what we ought to ask ourselves as we ponder on this gospel text. Am I just one of the crowd, accompanying Jesus along his way because it is convenient and keeps life interesting and bearable? Or am I prepared to be a true disciple and pay the price? Let us consider what our Lord says about the cost. The crowds following him would have been there for a whole variety of reasons, and would have had a variety of attitudes towards him, and Jesus knew it. He turned to the crowds and spoke to them, and he put it very bluntly. He said, "If any man comes to me without hating his father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, yes, and his own life too, he cannot be my disciple. Anyone who does not carry his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple." Our Lord wanted the crowds following him to hear the stark choice. Christ regarded his disciples as those who chose him decisively and were prepared to go with him no matter what it required. And this is just the danger. We can be influenced away from our Lord by those persons or things we love or like. We normally accede to the wishes of those we love, and usually the sign that we do not love something or someone is that we disregard that person's requests. It can look as though we're almost hating that person. So great is the upset we cause him or her by our course of action. Our Lord is telling us that love for him is to be the deepest love of our life, the love that comes first. Our Lord was once asked, "Which is the first commandment of the law?" He answered, "This is the first. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength." Our Lord is not telling us that we are not to love our family and our loved ones. The fourth commandment commands honour to one's father and one's mother. Christ's own command was that we love one another as I have loved you. He also said that this would be the sign by which all men would know that we are his disciples, that we love one another. In revealed religion, we cannot love God without loving one another. Our Lord asks of us the highest loyalty to and love for himself, knowing that this is in the best interests of all. Living this out might on occasion give the mistaken impression to someone close to us, that we are ruthlessly disregarding his or her wishes and feelings. If God makes certain demands and our spouse or family makes contrary demands, we have to say yes to God and no to spouse and family. St. Thomas More had to say no to his spouse and family in standing firm in his profession against the king. A spouse may pressure one to engage in fraud, theft, deceit, contraception, or even abortion. It has to be yes to God's law and no to the contrary. Another instance might be being absolutely faithful to one's spouse, even if one is separated from one's spouse. And it means being faithful to that separated spouse, even if that separated spouse goes on to be unfaithful in further ways. We must put Jesus first, and Jesus said, "If you love me, you will keep my commands." We shall grow in this love for Jesus if we think long and often on his love for us. St. Paul said, "Christ loved me and delivered himself up for me." Let us think of those words, making them our own, saying them over and over in our hearts. Jesus carried his cross for me, so I am called to carry my own cross after him. Anyone who does not carry his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Jesus above all else, even above one's own life, and no matter what the cost.